Up, everybody? Welcome back to Saturdays in the SEC, episode 134. Another huge Saturday in the books here in the SEC. Um, I mean, really fun one this weekend. I mean, probably not too fun for us here on the podcast, but um, obviously had some huge matchups this weekend. Uh, Gonna start off in Austin with Georgia, Texas. I mean, I gotta give you a lot of credit. You absolutely nailed this game. Um, in the predictions last week. Um, Georgia comes into Austin, they dominate defensively from the jump. I thought it was super impressive performance overall, but particularly in the first half. Man, Georgia came in locked in. I mean, I think Texas had about 30 yards total offense at half. I mean, it was absolutely dominant performance. Really got after Quinn Ewers. Um, so much so that he went to the bench for a little bit, had to kind of, reset a little bit, ended up coming back into the second half. But um, I thought one of the big takeaways is they absolutely shut down this Texas run game. They had 27 attempts for 29 yards. I mean, it was absolutely non-existent. Um, took advantage of some turnovers, getting after Ewers up front. Um, but I mean, you nailed it. It's like when you start to doubt Georgia a little bit, that's when they really show up. I think Kirby is the best in the country, not only as a recruiter or as an X's and O's coach, but the way he can motivate his guys, the way he has his guys prepared, the mentality that they come out with. Um, when they start feeling that little bit of doubt from the outside, or have people kind of talking down on them or thinking, maybe they're not what we thought they were and stuff like that. That's exactly when they come out with a performance like this. Um, just really impressive. Obviously, they haven't been playing well for a lot of the season. What you would typically expect from Georgia. Um, but they came out, showed it in this game on the big stage so far this year. Um, Kind of give me your thoughts on what you saw from this game and kind of for them going forward.
One thing about Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs is they're not going to get got twice in 1 month. It ain't going to happen. He's the new GOAT in college football, the new active GOAT, I'll say, in college football. So, it never happened to Nick Saban. He's not going to get got 2 times in a month. It's not going to happen to Kirby Smart, especially when he's got the roster like he's got right now. Still think Carson Beck obviously has got to play better. Definitely had his moments where he looked, like a number one draft pick. Then he had his moments where he looked like, he's not the same quarterback as we're used to seeing. Had a couple turnovers again. Felt like he threw it in some questionable balls and some tighter coverage. I feel like one of the interceptions he didn't see the guy. He didn't see the back half of the guy up top on the back right side corner. So that's an honest mistake. But the other one, I feel like he just forced it a little bit. But other than that, man, Georgia's defense was the story of the day. I mean, absolutely dominated. They were flying around the field. Nothing that Texas could do. They had really one good drive in the second half. That was about it.
Yeah.
I texted you, and I heard what Sark said after the game. He was like, we just had to put Quinn on the bench and let him regroup. He was like, we weren't, benching him for good. He was like, we just had to let him regroup. Nothing was going. We were just going to see what we could do with Arch. And I understand it from an aspect a little bit because Arch can run. Quinn Ewers really can't. And Arch really had one good run when he was in there, but I was texting you the whole time. I was like, this makes no sense to me. This is probably the dumbest decision I've seen in quite some time. It wasn't Quinn Ewers' fault. It wasn't like quarterback play was hindering the offense from getting that second gear. It was not that at all. It was just the defense was in the backfield every single snap, it seemed. Like you said, they couldn't get a rush going. They kept changing their fronts. They were disguising pressures really well. Then they would simulate pressures a couple of times. And then when they would simulate it 3 or 4 times in a row, then they'd finally bring the house, and then Quinn Ewers wouldn't know what to do. It was hats off to that defense, but I was not shocked at all just because, like I said, you doubt Kirby Smart. That is fueling his fire. He is the best at getting his team. He uses the media's negativity to his advantage, and he is the best at doing that I've seen in college football in quite some time. He is honestly, he's phenomenal. I I thought other than that one drive in the second half, they played pretty much flawless football. I mean, there's really not much more you could ask for. Um, Dominant on both sides of the ball. ETN ran the ball extremely well. They were able to spread the ball around, I thought. Early in the game, it kind of looked like Texas was going to start. It was going to start rolling Texas's way early in the first quarter. But then Georgia's defense, about the third drive Texas had in the third quarter, it was dominant from then. The rest of the game, you knew that Georgia was going to win the game, and they're up 23-0 at half or 23-3 at half, whatever it ended up being. But it was second half was really exciting from a lot of things that happened that was not exactly football. I mean, there's trash being thrown on the field. There's a play that was a call was reversed after a play was pretty much ran after the play. Something I'd never seen before. It was crazy. I was actually at a concert on Saturday. I was watching on my phone. It went out for a little bit, so Cam was texting me updates, and I finally was able to get it back on my phone the last like 5 minutes of the game. So I saw the very end. And I went back and watched the second half of it, and man, that was an insane cause of events right there. I mean,
Yeah.
them throwing the trash on the field did allow them to have a little more time to look at it. That's what let them change it. So it's not like them throwing the trash on the field was the cause of them changing the play, but that definitely is what it looks like. So it's not very good. Um, Obviously, the school's going to get fined for it, but that has nothing to do with the students or the fans. They don't care. It's not their money. So I, that's a problem for sure. We've seen it happen before, but now that, yeah, a call was changed after it happened, that is not the reason that it was changed, but it does look that way, and it makes fans believe that it could happen. So I'm curious to see if that happens again before the season's over or not.
Yeah, you've heard people say, it kind of sets a bad precedent because, I mean, after a 5 minute delay or so, obviously it was a ball that was intercepted by Texas. They called a pat or a holding on it. And obviously, it was going to be Georgia ball. Georgia's going to keep the ball. And then, obviously they end up, basically overruling it back after the trash comes on the field and the delay. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely a bad look and bad precedent being set by, hey, if you overreact to a call or something like that, you can, get it changed potentially. I mean, that's kind of what it seems like. So yeah, that's definitely something, they'll have to kind of get a hold of and not allow that to happen again. But I thought the biggest thing though, after Texas obviously ends up scoring there, makes it 23-15, and it looked like, oh man, it looked like what Georgia was doing to Alabama in the second half. They're starting to gain some momentum. Texas had all the juice on their sideline. But I thought the big thing, Georgia came back and answered, even if it's just one time. And that's what it was. They were up 23-15. They answered one time, and that just kind of took the wind out of their sails. At that point, they weren't really able to ever recapture momentum. I thought at the end of the game, Georgia did a good job moving the ball enough to just get a few first downs where Texas really couldn't get the ball back. And obviously, it was four down territory for Texas. And Georgia did a good job of kind of, preventing any big plays, not giving up anything cheap to get them back in the game or get them back within a score. And just thought Georgia did a good job of managing things during the second half, responding and then kind of being able to put the game away late to not let it get interesting in the final couple minutes. But yeah, their defense, I mean, they only gave up 259 yards. Like I said, only about 30 of that in the first half, 7 sacks. They completely shut the run down. I mean, 1.1 yards per carry. Um, and then they had 17 points off of 4 Texas turnovers. So, and Texas generated some as well. Carson Beck got picked off 3 times. They weren't able to capitalize like Georgia was able to. And yeah, all in all, just a really dominant performance. And didn't expect it to this level. I mean, I told you like I picked Texas, but I was like, man, my gut's kind of telling me Georgia. This just seems like a spot where they could, but the way they've been playing, I had some doubts, and obviously should learn not to doubt Kirby Smart and this Georgia team at all. I really don't. I didn't expect them to do this necessarily, but at the end of the day, I'm not surprised. I mean, we knew you knew they had this in them at some point, and I'm curious to see how this kind of propels them the rest of the way. Um, have they kind of been through their ruts now, and this is where they kind of take off? We've seen that a bunch of times.
Kirby's last loss to a team that was not named Alabama was in November of 2020. That's wild to think about. That is
Yeah,
absolutely wild to think about. I would have been, I wasn't necessarily shocked. I agree with you. I didn't think it would be this much of a just a manhandling of a game, honestly. I thought it would be a lot more of a slugfest. Um, but I would have been more surprised if it would have happened to Georgia. Like if the script would have been flipped and it would have been Texas doing what to Georgia, what Georgia did to Texas, I would have been more shocked by that than was by seeing Georgia do what they did to Texas. Uh, just because, like I said, Kirby Smart, man, he is a mastermind and he is not going to get got twice. But the way that he was disguising his pressures on defense and then using his simulated pressures to his advantage, I thought, which everybody does it, but I just, the way that they draw it up over there at Georgia, it's pretty much, poetry on a football field when it comes to the defense.
yeah, and I mean, as great as Kirby is, I mean, I think to me what separates him is obviously he's a great X's and O's coach, especially defensively. I mean, we know that he's done it for a long time. But to me, I don't. I think you could say that about a lot of coaches. Like I
Mhm.
think there's a good bit of coaches X's and O's wise that are right there with each other. What really separate? I mean, he's an elite recruiter, obviously, and relentless at it. I mean, you see what he's done on the trail throughout his whole career. Obviously, from that standpoint, but I just think, like I said, the mentality he gets his team to play with and how they are mentally ready to come out for basically every single game they play in. To me, that's what separates him from the rest of the pack. And
Getting
that's
everybody
what
to
I
buy
think
in.
separated Nick Saban a lot from the rest of the
Yeah.
pack. Obviously, he recruited and obviously he knows the game well. He recruits at a high level, but like holding being able to hold guys to that standard and have that mentality, like he said in the post game, like he played it perfectly. You know, told ESPN like y'all's network's been doubting us all week, and I mean he just basically sounded like Dabo Sweeney. Is us against the world basically. Little old Georgia almost, but um yeah, I think he played that perfectly, but just the mentality they came out with, like you said, they came to eat, and that's what they did. Um, that I mean that to me is what really separates him from everybody else. Um, I mean, he as far as a motivator, he's right there or better at than Saban at that. He really is. Like he is one of the best I've ever seen at just motivating his football team, but like I said, just having them in the right headspace. Because I mean, a lot of teams are like Texas was motivated in this game. Like motivation wasn't an issue, you know. But just to say the mentality that they came out with was what was so impressive, and what continues to be impressive with them. Um, just a well coached, well rounded football team, and yeah, I think this is the point year you'll see them take off as they have so many times. And the crazy part is like this wasn't even their best game. I mean, they still have multiple turnovers. I mean, it wasn't they haven't really clicked offensively yet for 4 quarters. Um, in a big marquee game. So yeah, I think there's a lot of room there to build. But I mean, it was a great win for them, great win for not only the program but just the season in general. And obviously, they were never out of it, obviously, but they're right back on the track to being in Atlanta come early December.
Absolutely. And obviously, it's the third Saturday in October, so everybody knows what that means. Hosted back in Neyland, where the last time this game was played, Tennessee won for the first time in however 20 years, 18 years, whatever it was at the time. I mean, it had been quite some time since they had last won. Then Bama took it back last year at home, and then go back to Neyland this year. Nico, new quarterbacks in there, and he doesn't look too good the first half. Bama doesn't look too good in the first half. In the second half, Defense of Tennessee, which defense looked good the whole game on both sides to me, but defense of Tennessee kind of strapped down a little bit more. And then Nico kind of found it in the second half. He was looking a little more comfortable to me, and he was able to hit some shots over the top. They ran the ball really, really well. Like we've talked about Josh Heupel ad nauseum on this podcast. It doesn't matter if it's not there. He's still going to run the ball. He is not. He's going to die by the run, live and die by it. And we saw it again this week. That eventually opened up some plays where Nico was able to hit some deep plays in the second half that really pushed Bam over the top. But I'll let you get into it. Was a fantastic game. The third Saturday in October is one of the greatest rivalries in college football. And as much as you loved beating them 15 years in a row or whatever it was, everybody else in college football didn't love it. This is what we love. The good rivalries that are actually become really good games. Because over
Yeah.
the years, '09 it had to come down that Tennessee made a comeback. It had to come down to the Terrence Cody block. And there's
Yeah.
been some plays over the years or games over the years where Bama should not have fooled around with the Tennessee team that was much lesser than them, but it came down to the wire because it was the third Saturday in October. There's been plenty of those. But this is what everybody wants it to be. This is what makes college football the greatest is when those big rivalries like that, the
Yeah.
marquee name rivalries, actually turn out to be some damn good football on Saturday that's entertaining
Yeah.
for the whole 3.5 hours it's played. So I'll let you get into it, but I just want to say this lived up to the hype for sure.
Yeah, I think kind of looking at this game like as a whole really reminded me very similarly of the game Tennessee played against Florida just a week
Yeah, yeah.
prior, last week. Um, felt like Alabama had a chance to take firm control in the first half. Lot of meat left on the bone. You know, I mean, you forced three Tennessee turnovers in the first half. You scored no points off three turnovers. I mean, that really all in all was the game right there. You didn't take advantage of Tennessee mistakes early in the game, and it was a really a huge disappointment going into the locker room only up 7-0. That to me, that's where I was like, man, it's gonna be a tough. I mean, obviously a 7 point game is gonna be a tough second half, but I was like, man, we left so much on the table in the first half. Felt that way with Florida the week prior. Had multiple opportunities to go up double digits into the locker room. Florida was only up 3-0. Bama was only up 7-0. So you left the door open there in the second half in Neyland for them to, I mean, be right in the game when you could have not ended the game, obviously, but gave yourself a big cushion in the second half, or
Right.
at least a multi-score lead, which it probably should have been based on the way Tennessee played in the first half offensively, giving you three turnovers. You were set up well multiple times. Um, just really couldn't finish drives for a lot of the game. Um, but I thought Tennessee's front, I mean, did an excellent job just with their pressures. I mean, there was a bunch of times where in pass protection, Alabama just didn't pick it up very well at all. Kind of talking about the quarterback playing this game. I mean, I thought the defenses obviously did a lot of good things, both defensive fronts. I mean, I thought Alabama's defense really stopped the run the first half. Tennessee didn't run it at all in the first half. Um, but in the second half, like I said, they were able to lean on that a little bit more. That's why we've talked about them staying with it so much. And really wasn't bad other than a couple big runs they were able to
Yeah.
break off. I mean, I thought for the most part they did pretty well. There's a couple key ones that didn't quite fit things right, um, but yeah, that was really one of the key stats from the game too. They outrushed Alabama. I believe it was uh, let's see here, 217-89. So they more than doubled Alabama on the ground, which obviously, if you outrush somebody double on the ground, you're probably going to lose that game. Um, but thought both quarterbacks defenses did good things, but quarterbacks, man, left a lot of plays on the field, especially Jalen Milroe late in this game. I mean, like I said, I've heard people speculating like, does he have an injury of some sort? There's a video going around pregame of walking around just didn't look right necessarily. You kind of look at his mechanics, and the way he was missing high a lot. Um, just I mean, just so many plays were left on the table in this game. It's disappointing. You know, Ryan Williams got targeted 100 times in this game, only got 8 catches. Was
Yeah,
missed
that's
on
crazy.
several, almost connected on a few they couldn't connect on, and then some were just flat out misses. There was a few that were just forced, just trying to fit it in when it really wasn't there. Um, yeah, just a game of missed opportunities. Nico missed a lot too, especially early in the game on some deep shots. They had, a yard or two stride on the defensive back, just couldn't connect. I will give it to him though. His guy's gonna get it or nobody's gonna get it because it's gonna be overthrown a little bit. So I mean that is one good thing, in one aspect you want to give your guy a chance to make a play. Like if you underthrow it slightly, he's got a chance to adjust and make a play. When you overthrow him, he really didn't have a chance. But the defense back also doesn't have a chance. So it was going to be his guy or nobody there. Um, but yeah, I thought them getting the run game, Dylan Sampson, they hammered that. I thought they kind of weared Alabama down a little bit in the second half. Um, and then, another key part of the game, Tennessee takes a 14-10 lead. Alabama answers right back to go up 17-14, I believe, late in the third quarter,
I thought it
late
was over.
third, early fourth. And Alabama's last 4 drives, they totaled 3 yards. I mean, it was just absolutely pitiful at the end of the game when you really need a drive to put something together. Weren't able to get it done. I mean, it was a kind of an ugly executed game, but I thought both defenses did wreak some havoc up front a little bit, causing some of that. But um, yeah, I mean, hats off to Tennessee though. I mean, huge win for them again in Neyland to give them the 6-1 on the season. Obviously, Alabama dropping to 5-2, second loss in 3 weeks, which has not happened in a long time. First time they've lost
2007.
games before November since 2007. So, um, obviously, a lot of hot takes this week. You had a good bit after Vandy, and now after a second loss, they're flying even more. I'll just say this: I mean, I don't know what the rest of the season's going to hold necessarily, but I do think Kalen DeBoer is 100% the right guy for the job. I think even myself personally underestimated the the type of challenge it was going to be this year. It's a talented team, certainly. I think they're very young in some key spots, especially in the secondary. They're having to rely on a lot of young talent. Um, you know, I mean, you just had to replace a lot of guys. You had 20 something guys transfer out after Saban retired. I think I underestimated the the overhaul that it was really going to be. A whole new staff, whole new systems, so many new faces, and even the guys that are still there, they're learning whole new coaches, whole new systems as well, um, and just not clicking right now. I mean, when the defense plays better, the offense falls off. When the offense has played better, the defense falls off. It's just not a team that's been able to put it together on both sides of the ball for any real length of time. You've seen flashes. Thought Wisconsin they played well. Obviously, first half of Georgia, damn near looked like they was going to go to the national championship, and then haven't been the same since then. I still think it's in there. Like I still think they can get it together the rest of the year. I know it sounds crazy saying that now the way they've looked, but I have a hard time writing off a talented team. Like there's still a chance they can put it together. I predicted them 10-2 at the beginning of the season. Right now, that's still on the table. I mean, you look at their last 5 games, they'll be heavily favored in 4 of those, which doesn't mean anything because they played down the competition recently. Um, but I mean, they got a real shot. I mean, to finish the year strong. Big game in Baton Rouge here in about 3 weeks, but um, they're going to have to play a lot better, obviously, to accomplish that. But I mean, I still think it's on the table. There's a chance that it clicks, but I'm trying. I'm not going to be a hot take artist at this point. I do think he's the right guy. I think too what people underestimate is I think in this day and time is so many guys enter the portal, and it was after the winter portal window. Like there was only a spring. By the time Saban retired, DeBoer gets hired. The winter portal window's closed. So he's trying to combat all his guys leaving. He's trying to keep everybody on board just to keep a team together. So I think he's had to bend. I think everybody's talking about it. It's an undisciplined team right now. There's no doubt about it. And I think there's some things that's probably happened so far that I feel like won't happen as much in the future. I feel like maybe he's had to be a little more lenient to keep the roster together. Whether that's the correct way to do it is up for debate, but um, I think I think in some spots too, there needs to be some new personnel to kind of fit what he wants to do going forward. I don't know if some of the pieces in place really kind of fit the way he wants to do things. So I'm not really. I mean, there's staff changes that are going to be made after the season. That always happens from year one to year two on a staff. So um, I'm not any less confident than I was 4 or 5 weeks ago. I still think he's the right guy for the job. And I think he's going to be very successful. I know it's not going the way people want right now, but I'll be watching closely the rest of the year to see if, regardless of playoffs or any of that, I just want to see positive momentum going forward and executing at a higher level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when he gets his quarterback in there, it'll make a difference. You look at Michael Penix last year, and you look at Jalen Milroe; they're not the same type of quarterback at all. I think if he once he gets his guys in there, fully, that he'll be a lot better, and it'll look a lot smoother. And I think the point you made about him maybe potentially being a little more lenient because he's trying to keep his roster together, that's not all his guys, and that wants them to get a little trust behind him. I don't think that's just solely to him, though. I think that that's just the new age of college football in today's world because of the transfer portal. You're constantly having to recruit your roster after they're there. And then if you piss them off, well, you run the risk of, lose them in the portal the next time it opens. You run them too hard, you lose the risk of, them jumping in the portal. You get on their ass one good time. Well, let's say, screw this old man. I'm out of here. I'm going somewhere else. So like it's definitely, I think that is part of it for sure. And especially being a new coach, it's probably magnified more than other places. Yeah, he's got a good career laid out. He's solidified himself as a good coach, but not at Alabama yet. So he's definitely, you're probably right, walking on eggshells a little bit more than a coach usually would around their team. So I think that you're right about that. But and it's not a knock on Milroe like he's bad or anything. He's much better than anything Auburn's got on the roster and much better than a lot of teams and the SEC have on their roster. But he's not playing up to par right now. I don't know if he is injured. I don't know if he's just, not getting it right now, not feeling it, but he's not the quarterback for DeBoer's system. I don't think that, not that he's a bad quarterback, but he's not the quarterback for DeBoer to win him a championship. I don't think that at all. But I do want to go down to Missouri, to Como, cover this game, man. I mean, by all means, this was an ugly game. Both sides. Both teams looked bad at times. Both teams had some high points at times. It definitely didn't help that Missouri lost their quarterback in the third, fourth drive, whatever it was. He went down with a non-contact injury. He ran the ball 2 plays previous, and he kind of got up a little shaky. And then a play or two later, he tried to scramble around from some pressure, and he just immediately went down, had an ankle issue. They took him out of the game, goes across the street to the hospital. He's out of the game for like a not game time wise, but for an actual running 2 hours. He comes back, and then they put him in with 30 seconds to go in the third quarter, and the rest is history or whatever. However, Auburn is up 2 possessions in the fourth quarter. They're up 17-3. They end up holding Missouri to a field goal. Missouri kicks a field goal, which Missouri missed 2 field goals previous. So they left 6 points on the field for sure. So it very well could have been 17-12 or whatever it was. But it wasn't because they missed their field goals, so they were a little sloppy as well. So Auburn has a 3 possession lead. They hold Missouri to a field goal. And pretty much all they've got to do is just sustain a couple of drives. And they just can't quite do that. Peyton Thorne, at times, man, he looked really, 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 really good. And at times, he looked just like the same old Peyton Thorne we've seen all year. I liked some of the things that we did on the offense, that Auburn did on the offense with the two backs in the run game, two backs in the backfield. Ran some wildcat, ran a little bit of. There was one play. It was a little misdirection jet sweep to Malcolm Simmons. I believe it was in the third or fourth quarter, but they motioned in the backfield. They motioned over. Jarquez took the direct snap, handed it off to Peyton Thorne. Peyton Thorne pitches it back to Malcolm Simmons coming back around the jet sweep. There was a lot of things that Auburn did, some wrinkles they threw in that I thought were really good. And then there were some things that Auburn ran, and I'm scratching my head at the time. I'm thinking, Hugh Freeze has said over and over and over and over again. This is 7 weeks now. We've said this. Yeah, Jarquez has got to get more touches. Jarquez has got to get more touches. Jarquez has got to get more touches. Well, you're the one that controls that, my guy. And again, he got 19 touches, which is fine. He got 19 carries, which is more than he has been getting, but still, it's not enough, in my opinion. There would be times where on 1st and 10, they try and go for take a shot. They either miss it or we'd get sacked, lose some yardage, and then we try to run it, and then you get stuff there, and it's like, man, why not run it on 1st down? And Hugh Freeze said the same thing today. He's like, yeah, there's some things that we did, and then there's situations you look at a play and like, man, probably should have given it 27 right there. It's like that is never a bad decision. Why are you second guessing yourself on handing it to him rather than second guessing yourself on throwing it? There's frustrating for sure, but Auburn goes down. They have a 2-possession lead. They're marching down the field. This drive that Auburn has put together, they have marched down the field, crossed the midfield. They're on like the 15-yard line, 18-yard line, something like that. 1st down. Has not ran a pass play all drive. We are running the ball effectively. Chunk play after chunk play. Just there's nothing Missouri can do about it. And then beautifully called play, beautifully executed play. Pulls it, throws it over the top, left pylon, back left pylon, hits Robert Lewis right in the hands, right through him, drops it. That's 1st down. Could have been a touchdown. Would have been 24-6 right there. Ball game. Instead, drops it. Very next play, another pass play. Jarquez is the check down. He runs out to the left of the backfield. Pocket breaks down extremely quick. Right there, Peyton's got to know. Get rid of the ball, throw it to the check down right there. He had like a 5-6 yard cushion from the defender in his back pocket. It's definitely there to throw the ball. If he doesn't catch it, nobody else does. It's okay. Lives to the next down. Instead, Peyton takes a 12-yard sack. Very next play, run a screen to Jarquez. He gets about an 8-9 yard gain, having to end up settling for the field goal, misses the field goal. It actually might have been 20-14 at the time. I can't remember what it was, or 17-14 at that time, whatever it was. But a touchdown there seals the game, puts it away for good. It's super frustrating on all fronts. Granted, Missouri did not play well. Missouri tried to give Auburn the game away multiple times, and then Auburn did give the game away to Missouri there at the end. It's a little frustrating looking at it and seeing the offense move the ball effectively a fair amount of the game, but then realizing that they only had 2 offensive touchdowns. One of them was a great play, deep ball to Cam Coleman, and then Mizzou muffed a punt that gave Auburn another 6. So actually, yeah, those were the only one offensive touchdown. They moved the ball effectively. That's what's frustrating, man. And then Auburn drops an interception that I thought was an interception. Should have been. Next, Missouri ends up punting it. They don't even punt it past the 50-yard line. And that's when Auburn goes down and ends up dropping the touchdown pass, doesn't execute on it. There was another time Auburn scored a touchdown. They're up 17-6, I believe is what it was. Then they go to kick it off, and they kick it out of bounds. Just gives Missouri an extra, 10 yards, 15 yards, whatever that penalty is. And it's just giving them extra. And then you stop them in the second half, and Auburn's up 17-14, and they stop them on 3 straight defensive drives. But then Following all three of those defensive stops, the very next drives on Auburn's offense, Auburn goes 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Can't sustain a drive to put the game away. Three separate opportunities. Can't sustain a drive to put the game away. Absolutely frustrating. And then again, this is the story of Auburn's defense. They have played outstanding. They play with their hair on fire. There's no doubt about it that they are giving it their all out there, and they are competing their ass off. No doubt about it. But the third down defense is absolutely abysmal, dude. It has been since the very first game of the year, and it's gotten no better all the way up to now. I can name 5 third and longs that Missouri converted this week or last week on Saturday. Two of those drives ending in touchdowns. One of them was a 3rd and 14 basically in their own end zone. Brady Cook scrambles and gets a first down. There were several times where the one that really frustrated me was the I think it might have been 3rd and 10, and it was 14-3 or 14-6, 30 seconds to go before fourth quarter. 3rd and 10, Brady Cook hits a little drag route over the middle. DB goes up to try to bat it down. He misses it, threads the needle, runs all the way down to the half-yard line. First play of the fourth quarter, Missouri punches it in, and then pretty much that was it. When Auburn missed a field goal that would have put them up 20-14, really when they dropped the touchdown pass, when they missed that field goal, it gave Missouri all the life they needed, man. Just super frustrating. Peyton did some good things. Peyton also did some same boneheaded mistake things. There was honestly the last drive. I mean, Auburn had 50 seconds to drive down the field to score points, but the ball over the middle to Sam Jackson on 3rd down, a little drag route there. He catches that ball. I believe that there's a chance he can fight for a first down. If not, it's 4th and 1, not 4th and 12 or whatever it is. It was a little high thrown. Got to catch that ball. There's another ball to Rivaldo that he should have caught. Not the one where he got absolutely obliterated over the middle. Dude couldn't breathe after that. But Cam Coleman on that last drive should have caught that ball on the sidelines, I feel like. I mean, I know it was contested, but if you're as good as he says he is and everybody says he is, you got to catch that ball. But just frustrating, man. Just having the game and just pissing it away for the third time this season is what's really frustrating. It's like it's there, it is right there, and you just can't finish. Again, Missouri, hats off to them though. They fought back. They made stops when they needed to, and then offensively in the end, it was literally nut cutting time. They had to convert, or it was ball game, and they did. They converted a 4th and 5 to Luther Burden. I mean, ran a drag. I believe it was a drag route across the field, maybe a dig. Completely wide open. Nobody in the vicinity catches it, gets a first down, and that's what set them up for the touchdown. And the last 2 runs where they scored their final touchdown, when Auburn hit him in the backfield, hit the running back in the backfield, and he just bounced off of them like some pillows, scored. It's just the defense was definitely gassed there at the end because Auburn's offense couldn't run more than 3 plays. It was, I don't know, man. It's having to waste timeouts early in the game because Peyton's letting the clock run down. He has to call a timeout, and another one. I'm not sure exactly if it was miscommunication from the sidelines into the play call. I'm not sure what it was, but Hugh Freeze was insanely pissed off when it happened, just wasting timeouts there. Just all in all,
Hugh Freeze spent half his
absolutely brutal.
Being upset at Peyton Thorne.
Do what?
I said Hugh Freeze spends more than half his time.
Yeah, you're right, man. They're not. It is not a happy marriage on the Plains between head coach and quarterback. I know they care for each other, and I know that he truly does trust Peyton Thorne, or he wouldn't keep running them out there. But man, at some point, it's got to give. Like I don't. Does Peyton know too much for his own good? Is he over preparing? Because I feel like he psychs himself out with, oh, well, this is what he's going to do. He's showing this, so this is what this means. Well, I'm going to check to this, and then it ends up.
To me, he's over. It just seems from an outside perspective.
Yeah, I don't. And I'm not acting like I can go play quarterback. We're not saying that. And we don't ever act like we can. I'm just calling it like I see it, man. I've seen a lot of college quarterback football play in my life. I've watched a lot of it. I've seen a lot of good quarterback play. I've seen a lot more bad quarterback play because there's a lot more bad quarterbacks in college football than good ones. He definitely fits the mold of bad quarterback play. Hasn't gotten better. It's literally the same product week after week after week. It's I wasn't worried about Auburn losing momentum on the recruiting trail and losing momentum with this class, that Auburn has a top 5 class for next year. I wasn't worried about that losing anything at all until this week. That's the third game where they've had it in hand and they lose it on some bonehead BS. That's what scares me, man. It's how many of these kids are going to, turn tail and run. I know a lot of them are saying, over social media that they're sticking with it, but what if Auburn ends up 3-9? Are those guys really going to say, "Oh, well, I think Hugh Freeze is the answer. I think we can come in and change it. It's going to be that much different next year." It could be if they all stay. I just don't know if that's a possibility. Is Cam Coleman going to leave? Is Perry Thompson going to leave? That's the new anxieties you get with the new age of college football. I've never really had to have those anxieties before because while Auburn has been the school where people want to transfer out of, Auburn's really not ever had this much recruiting powerhouse and this high caliber of players on their roster for me to be worried about them leaving house. But it seems like that could be coming down the pipeline. Now, all the coaches and all the recruiting people at Auburn are saying, no, we have a strong bond. We put bond and relationship first with our players before we recruit anything athletic wise. They know what our intentions are, and I'm like, I get that, I understand that, but what's the realistic possibility of these kids bolting? Like, be real with the fan base, so when it happens, you don't look like that much of a jackass for saying no, it's not going to happen. And obviously, they're not going to say, yeah, our team's, our recruit class is going to leave, but that's the thing I'm starting to worry about now is the season's a wash, because this season's over with. I like the way that we're playing. We're very competitive. There's no quit in the team. I haven't seen any quit yet. I've seen absolute gas defense there at the end, full of young guys. Just gas. And apparently, I'm not one to act like I know X's and O's down to a T, but according to Macro and Kubelik this morning, one of the plays that the defense got beat on late in the game, they had ran that same play 3 different times in the game, and they had executed it and ran it perfectly those 3 separate times. And then when they caught it that last time in the fourth quarter, they missed it. That's what ended up giving the touchdown. I don't know if it was the rush play or not. I'm not sure if it was a play that set up a touchdown or the rush play, but you can just tell that Auburn's a young team for sure. So in the future, if these guys stay in the future, they're going to be really good. That's the thing, is how good of a job is the staff doing at Auburn to keep these guys, on the roster. Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons, Jeremiah Cobb, people like that. Keeping those pieces together on that offense, and then obviously, guys Reddick on the defensive side of the ball, young guy's been playing really well. I cannot think of the guy's name. He's got a double last name. 28, I think is what he wears. He's a DB. Kaden Lee's another young guy on the defensive side of the ball, been playing extremely well. How do you keep that nucleus of your young core? You're really talented. Your best talent you got on your roster right now is all freshman, sophomore. Are they doing a good enough job to keep those guys there and to keep their high school recruiting class? Being realistic of Auburn, how they're going to finish this year is probably going to be around 3-9, 4-8, somewhere around there if we're being realistic with ourselves. The Just say they have, I don't know how many kids they have verbally committed to them right now. I'm just going to throw a number out there. Just say they have 18. If they finish 3-9 or 4-8, they're probably going to lose 5 or 6 of those kids. Realistically, I think that's a real thing. Now, the big names, probably not, like Alvin Henderson and Deuce Knight, are probably still going to stay, but they're probably going to lose some kids in those classes. So that's the worry for me in the new age of college football, and Auburn not putting up, what they're supposed to be doing when they get the talent that they have. I know it's still early. I know he inherited a dumpster fire, but it's how can he keep it from getting back to a dumpster fire? Is that going to be a possibility if they go 3-9, 4-8?
Well, kind of, I guess thoughts on the game real quick. I think you highlighted it perfectly when they didn't capitalize and get points there right for the fourth quarter. That was opened the door from Missouri. They scored the first play of the fourth quarter. You had a game from there. Like you said, I know disheartening for Auburn fans to have another one almost in the bag and you just can't complete the deal. I mean, imagine what 5-2 would feel like right now versus 2-5. That's a
And
huge.
it's a very, very real possibility that it could be that way. At worst, 4-3. I would say at worst 2-5. But like if things go the way that they were going for 40 minutes of a football game, and the last 20 minutes happens, I mean, it's just it's frustrating,
Yeah,
man.
which Missouri obviously is not a bad team, but
No, right,
you see
right.
the way Oklahoma's playing right now. Cal's not a great team, obviously. So I mean, it wasn't like
Arkansas, man. I mean,
yeah,
they're competitive, but
yeah,
Auburn had
or
a chance to beat them.
but it wasn't like, oh man, you had Georgia up against the ropes and they got off. Like you can kind of understand that. It wasn't like, oh, we had Oregon up against the ropes and they got off. It was the teams that are not great teams or whatever. So
Right.
you can imagine what the feel would be if it was, if you were 2 or 3 games better than you are right now. But that goes to show you how we've talked about, the margins are so thin. I mean, because you could come up with 5 plays that if they went the other way, it'd be a 2 or 3 game difference. Like I could say, you could say that for Alabama. If I could probably think of 5 plays go differently, um, they'd be undefeated. And then I could probably think of a couple more plays they'd have another loss. So you can play that, however way you want. But I don't personally, I don't worry about them losing a ton out of this class. I mean, you may have a few here or there. I was actually looking up their class when you were talking. They've got 27 commits right now, so they're
Seven
they're
of
getting
them.
they're getting pretty close to being. I mean, that's about a full class. I
That's a
mean,
full class, yeah.
and they're it obviously varies from year to year. You can take a few more, if depending on who
Yeah.
transfers or whatnot.
20
So
to 20 to 28 ish is usually the bread and butter ish area.
yeah, so I mean, sure, there may be a little movement there. I mean, and they're probably going to be anyway, regardless, a little bit. Could
You're
be
right.
it could be a move or two here or there. So I just looking from the outside perspective, I don't know for sure, but I mean, definitely a concern. I mean that's I think that's a concern if you're anybody is making sure you want to keep your class. I mean that's a mild concern to have with Alabama. Like, hey, we've got a great class growing right now. You don't want to lose momentum on the field and that lose you momentum on the
Right.
recruiting trail as well. So, I mean, I think I think a lot of teams are having that concern. So yeah, it's definitely a very fair concern for sure. But um, I think for the most part they'll probably be able to keep it together because I mean these guys committed knowing the program was still a ways away. So obviously it's a little more obvious now that hey, it's still a pretty still a good ways away. But I think these guys signed up to be the ones to kind of change it and move it in the right direction. So um and they look at the opportunity of most guys are looking, hey, I want to come be able to play early. And a lot of these guys are going to be able to play early, just like the guys right now that are playing early. Because these guys are going to be the most, the younger guys are going to be the most talented on the team. So, um, I think too it'll be big getting a transfer quarterback in there. Because if they can keep some of these receivers together, it's going to be a very attractive destination for a quarterback coming out of the portal with a lot of pieces to work with. But
How
um,
good's Auburn right now with Cam Ward or with Riley Leonard? That's what gets me because over the offseason, all the talk was no, they're bought into Peyton Thorne. They don't want them. They bought into Peyton Thorne. He's better. He's better. They don't want them. They don't need them. They're more than a quarterback away. But then you look at the thing, and I was bought in on that. We're more than a quarterback away. We're more than a quarterback away. It's not necessary. More than a quarterback away. But then you look at the field and the product on the field and the outcomes, and you're like, maybe we are more than a quarterback away. Maybe we're just a quarterback away. And I'm not saying a quarterback away from the Natty. That is not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying maybe we are a quarterback away from being 5-2. You know what I mean? It's a very good possibility we have one of those two cats back there. It's a different outcome right now when we're sitting in the standings anyway.
yeah, I mean, I think with one of them, they're certainly not 2-5. They're certainly better. That they're certainly a game or two better, probably at least. Um, So yeah, I agree with you on that. Like I don't think they're um I I don't think they're a quarterback away from winning an Natty or really being a SEC championship team. But I think they're a quarterback. They would be a quarterback away from making some
Eight or
pretty
nine
serious
wins,
noise. I think.
8 or 9
Um,
wins for sure.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's fair for sure. I mean, like you said, I think, um, yeah, I think they would be making some fairly serious noise potentially. So,
And
um,
offensive line's got to get better, man. Offensive line was good at times, horrendous at others. I mean, there was times we had two offensive linemen backpedaling on their heels, basically running into Peyton Thorne multiple times. I'm like, and that's a problem, obviously. That's a problem for any quarterback, but it's got to get better all around. But I mean, I'm a broken record, man. Unable to finish out games, but the third down defense is the biggest key. Obviously, offenses are going to convert third downs against you. It is impossible to hold somebody to go 0 for 5 or 0 for 8 on third downs. It might happen every once in a while. The third downs are going to be converted against you. But 5, 6, 7 every week in their third and longs, they're not third and manageables. They're third and longs, and they're constantly getting converted 3, 4 times in the same drive. That's I get it. Auburn's young, but that also hurts. A lot of the blame goes on the offense. I'm bad about doing that too because that's where a lot of it shines. But if you go back and look at all the games that Auburn's lost, I would be willing to bet that they had 7 or more third and longs converted against them. I can count 4 against Arkansas. I can count 5 this weekend. Just off the top of my head. If I go back and watch the film, I guarantee you there's 7 or more. It's just frustrating. My buddy Wallace, I went to Huntington with him. He's a big Auburn fan. Played baseball with him and all that. And I can go back and look at our text right now. Every single Saturday, we're texting during the Auburn games and stuff. I can go back and there's probably 4 or 5 texts every single Saturday from him that just says third down. And I'll, exclamation mark it. And then he'll 10 minutes later, third down. That is the story of Auburn's defense this year, and not being able to execute offensively consistently is just, man, it's right there. They're not far off, and that's the more frustrating part. This season is not as bad as 2012, but it's more frustrating because in 2012 you watched Auburn. That's when Auburn went 3-9, worst season they've had in program history. In 2012, you watch the games and you just say Auburn's just not there. Every team they're playing is just better than them. Yes, they may make some mistakes here and there, but they're not gifting teams games. They are just straight up getting their ass whipped because they suck. That is hard to watch, and that is why it has been the hardest football season of my life I've ever endured because Auburn was just that bad. They were the worst team every Saturday they went on the field. There was no doubt about it. Didn't win a conference game. It was a bad year. But this year is more frustrating because they're there. They're in the winnable moments. They're at the finish line, and then they just can't get the job done. So it doesn't suck as bad as 2012, but it's definitely more frustrating because this is not the 2012 talent that we have, but it's 2012 results. Does that make sense?
yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, I think Auburn's a better team than what the record shows. Like, I think the turnover stats skewed some things. Like, I think they're overall a better team than what they've showed. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to close some games out.
You are what your
Um,
record says you are.
yeah. So, um, uh, you mentioned Auburn not being able to close out games. I'll tell you a team that didn't start the game the other day, and that's the Oklahoma Sooners. Because I tell you
Yeah.
what, Shane Beamer, fresh off a close loss in Tuscaloosa last Saturday, he had those Gamecocks coming out of tone ready to eat, buddy. That defensive line terrorized, like terrorized Oklahoma like the biggest F5 tornado that's ever came through Oklahoma. I mean, it was absolute carnage all over the field in Norman. They gave up a program record 9 sacks on Saturday. This game was over before you could snap your fingers. This game was over in literally the first 5.5 minutes of the ball game. It was a wrap. South Carolina jumps up 17-0, and that was an insurmountable deficit for this Oklahoma offense as currently constructed. It is a bad, bad product. So bad that Brent Venables called Seth Luttrell into his office Sunday morning and said, "Pack your bags after 7 games. You're out of here, dog." So it was a rough afternoon there in Norman. Yeah, just a bad plan from Oklahoma. They had tight ends and guys that should not be blocking Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard. I mean, they did whatever they wanted and then some. Um, got a couple turnovers early, obviously that helped them jump out to that lead. Michael Hawkins gets benched. Jackson Arnold's back in. It's probably going to be a flip flop the rest of the year going forward. We don't have any answers here with the Sooner offense. Um, they are one of the worst in the country. They're trying to give Florida State a run for their money offensively here. 128th in the country. Yeah, I mean that's really all I can say on this game because South Carolina showed up off the bus, had them sacked about 5 times before the game even kicked off, and yeah, Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard they did whatever they wanted.
Yeah, South Carolina got off the bus, walked on the field. They looked at Lenore Sellers, South Carolina's defense, looked at Lenore Sellers, said, "Hey, you can take the first quarter off. Kick your legs up. We got you." And they scored 2 defensive touchdowns in the first quarter. While Lenore Sellers, when he got the chance to play in the first quarter, was throwing it all around the field. I mean, he had like 150 yards passing in the first quarter or something along those lines. Dude was going nuts. But yeah, you're right. Shane Beamer, man, it's hard not to like him. People give him, he catches a lot of slack from people of how he treats the media after losses and stuff. People act like he's a titty baby. I like the guy. I really, really like the guy. I've been a fan of him ever since he's been there. I like seeing him reap, the work he's put in because South Carolina's not an easy job. There's only been one coach in my lifetime that's had success there, and he's one of the best college football coaches of all time, and Steve Spurrier. So seeing Shane Beamer kind of get South Carolina back to a respectable program, I enjoy seeing it. Man, hats off to them. Like you said, from the first 5 minutes, this game was written in stone. South Carolina's going to come away with a W. Jackson Arnold didn't know what to do. Michael, or what's his name?
Michael
Hawkins
Hawkins.
Jr.
Yeah.
Michael Hawkins. He didn't know what to do. They both looked lost. It was quarterback carousel. It was, man. I feel sorry for Brent Venables. It's ugly being an Auburn fan this year, but it can always be worse, I assume. Except Oklahoma beat Auburn. So
Yeah. I mean, offensively, they're a mess. I mean, knew it was over early. I mean, Oklahoma. Not only can they not score, but when they're giving the other team scores, it's a wrap at that point. What's crazy is they got more first downs than South Carolina. They outgained South Carolina, but I mean, so it's kind of crazy when you look at the stat sheet. You're like, man. But then you scroll down a little bit, and you see,
two
oh,
defensive touchdowns.
four Oklahoma turnovers, including
Yeah.
those 2 defensive touchdowns. No turnovers for South Carolina. Okay, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah,
But
you're
yeah,
+4 in the turnover battle. You're going to win that game 99% of the time.
yeah, they just wreaked absolute havoc. I mean, now honestly, they were all over them from the second they stepped on the grass there in Norman. Um, yeah, that's all I got to say about it. The South Carolina is a pretty good team. I mean, and they're very
They got a bye
close
week
to
this week. They got a bye week this week, and then they play Texas A&M week 10. They host Texas A&M. That's going to be a damn good football game.
yes. Yeah, no, they've got some winnable games here down the stretch. A couple very tough matchups though. But they're sitting good. They're another team that's been close to having another win or two. They feel could have pulled that Alabama game out at the end. They definitely feel they should have won that LSU game at home. I mean, it was a either or type of result there. So yeah, obviously the Ole Miss game went south early, but No, it's a good football team. Like I think they're better than a 4-3 record shows too. Just how competitive they are. Some of the pieces they have defensively, especially. So, yeah, huge win for them though. Momentum going into the bye week and setting them up for the potential to have a really good finish down the stretch.
Absolutely. And speaking of Texas A&M, they went to Mississippi State. Man, Mississippi State, to be as depleted as they are, man, they fight. They fight, they fight, they fight. Their offense is actually starting to find its identity a little bit, man. You know, having Jeff Lebby down there is exactly what you expect to happen. But Le'Veon Moss, you know, he did what he was supposed to do, had two tuds. And Texas A&M really, the score doesn't indicate really how well Texas A&M had control of this game. But you got to tip your cap to Mississippi State for fighting their ass off, man. I mean, fought all the way down to the last second. You know, tip your cap. They're going to be good eventually. Give him some time to get his program where he needs it to be. But to be as depleted of a roster as they have to hang with Texas A&M and only get beat by 10, that's saying something for real. Because Texas A&M, I mean, they stand alone at the top of the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I like how hard Mississippi State plays. I think you see Van Buren, the young quarterback there, starting to gain a little bit of confidence, doing some different things, in the run game a little bit. I think to kind of help him out. And yeah, I missed 3 weeks in a row. They go to Texas, play really, really tough. I mean, for a majority of the game.
Mhm.
Same thing at Georgia. I thought played really tough. I mean, hung in there as best they could with what they have. Same thing in this game. I mean, they're outgunned in every game they play in. So to be able to hang in the way they have, I mean, I think you saw Oklahoma offensively a year ago and what they are now. Well, Jeff Lebby was the guy who walked out the door. And
Yep.
you look at where they're at offensively now, with their offensive coordinator right now. So you look at what Jeff Levy's done, at Mississippi
Who did they
State.
promote?
What's that?
Who did Oklahoma promote?
Beyond, that's a good question. I'm sure. I
I
guess
hadn't heard
somebody
of
on their offensive staff, or maybe quarterback coach. That's a
it.
good question. I actually got to need to look that up.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway,
but yeah, I mean, you look at him, walked out the door. He's done a great job every stop he's been at. Yeah, to me, I think he's getting the most he can out of what he has right now. And yeah, I mean, he's got his football team playing hard. Uh, they're hanging in there. Like I said, they're outgunned, but they've done a really good job. Like I said, I mean, they're not. I don't think even if you're a better team than them, like they're not a team. I don't think you want to see down the stretch.
no.
I feel like they're gaining some confidence, even though they're not winning games. But I think these are building blocks for them going forward. Like this is a team that you can't overlook. Oh, I don't know what Mississippi State's record is, but
1-6.
yeah, 1-6. So, but that you go, oh, we got Mississippi State. Like this isn't a team you can sleep on necessarily.
No.
Like they can do some things to give you some issues. So yeah, I like what I'm seeing from them, despite what the results say.
Absolutely. And then LSU Arkansas, the battle for the boot. Um, I feel like I kind of got this last week pretty good.
Yeah,
Everybody said it was kind of well, not everybody, but people were saying it was a trap game for LSU, and we discussed that it was a potential trap game for LSU. I mean, that it very much this was the definition of a trap game for a team like LSU.
yeah,
And I said last week, I said I know that it is a trap game, but I feel like they found their stride in that second half last week. Now, I feel like that they have found their identity and they're not going to check up now. That's what they needed. They're going to go in stride, and that's exactly what they did, man. From the start of this game, there was no question at all. LSU was in control from the first snap to the final snap. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. I would love, love, love to see this team play uh, USC again. I think they
yeah.
beat USC by 3 touchdowns now. There's so much unknowns in week one, obviously, but this team is much, much better than where they were week one. Like I said, I think they found their stride. They did exactly what they're supposed to do to a team like Arkansas. They're not pretenders, I don't believe. I think they're the real deal, and I think we're going to see a lot of them late in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of the main ones, saying I didn't like the spot for LSU coming off that game against Ole Miss, kind of sandwiched in between the Texas A&M game, Arkansas coming off a bye. I was super impressed, man. Really, really impressed with how they came out, and not only just the way they did it too, the way they played defensively. You really see them coming on in that area.
Yeah.
Not just Blake Baker, but the entire staff's done a phenomenal job. I mean, they completely overhauled that defensive staff from last season. You're starting to see the fruits of that labor pay off here.
And
They're
when
in
we
the
talked about that beginning of the year when we covered them, we said they don't need to be top 10 defense in the country. They need to be top 65, and they will be very manageable with the offense that they have coming in. And that's exactly what they've done. And we've seen that it has worked out in their benefit because where they were last year, if they'd have had the defense they have now last year, national champions.
Yeah, they're really coming into their own. They're starting to play better, even without Harold Perkins, which is really impressive.
Yeah.
Like what their defensive lines, been able to do. But not only defensively, but kind of the style in which they did it. This is a team that really hasn't ran the ball great, but then man, they ran it really effectively in
Yeah.
this game. Like to me, that was kind of the next step they needed to take is be able to be a little bit more balanced. They have a great offensive line. And I think they found the running back of the present and the future in
Hey,
Cade
Durham.
Durant.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has came on. You've seen the flashes over the last several weeks, but I feel like this game was really his big kind of coming out party, if you will. Had a great night. Like I
Not
said,
one, not two, but
but
three.
three. Yeah, it was a great night for LSU. I mean, I think it went about as well as you could, especially in the it was still a tough spot, but they came out and handled business against a solid Arkansas team in Fayetteville, and not only them doing it, but the way in which they did it was really impressive to me. And obviously now um, go to College Station this week. Texas A&M's 4-0 in the SEC standing alone. LSU's 3-0 in second, right behind them. So the only two undefeated teams in conference are playing this Saturday night in College Station. Gonna be a great game, but really impressed with what LSU was able to do Saturday night.
Absolutely. And then Kentucky and Florida. As an Auburn fan that's going to the game this weekend, just gives me a little bit of confidence that I might get to see an Auburn win. But man, DJ Lagway, I think they found their quarterback of the future. I mean, obviously we've all known that this is him, but man, he looked really good. Throwing some dimes. I mean, he didn't have an interception, but throwing some dimes. They used his legs. He ran the ball extremely effective. But Jaden Ball, I mean, not one, not two, not three, not four, but five. I mean, that man had 106 yards, 5 touchdowns on 22 carries. Not much more you can ask from that. I thought it was set up extremely well by Lagway through the pass game. I thought he did just enough to open it up. Didn't throw it much with for 14 times and 7 completions for 259 yards. So you complete 7 balls for 259. You're airing it out a little bit. But man, the run game, which I was super surprised they were able to run the ball as well as they did against Kentucky, because we've seen this Kentucky front be extremely good all year, other than one game against South Carolina, and then now this game. What was the biggest piece for you that stood out to you of why Florida was able to succeed as well as they did offensively?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I was surprised in the way they were able to run the ball. I thought they were able to get a little push on Kentucky's defensive line. Thought hit some shot plays down the field as you mentioned. Thought that helped open some things up as well. Defensively, they were able to get a couple turnovers to set them up for some scores, which was huge in this game. Brock Vandergriff, you know, has some moments, but has some rough, decisions in there as well that were costly. But yeah, I think the big thing just I was surprised in the way they were able to get a push up front. Florida's offensive line hadn't been the best, but I feel like getting a little continuity up there now. Um, knowing now it's going to be DJ Lagway's show the rest of the way. Curious to see if that kind of gives them a little shot in the arm, you know, instead of them, coming in and yanking him, coming in and yanking him. Now he's going to get the full range. He's going to get all the reps, and I think that'll be beneficial for him the rest of the way. Um, can do things a little bit differently with the skill set he brings to the table. Um, very mobile, but is a good for a freshman. I think he's got a good starting base for as a passer. Like, I mean, you see some really good things when you watch him play, and for a young player. Um, and Jaden Ball, I mean, he kind of like Durham, another young, stud freshman running back in the SEC. That's gonna be good for the next few years here. I mean, really impressed. Um, a young guy being able to make a big difference in that running back room and for that offense as a whole. I mean, um, for Florida too, like you want to see your young guys play like those. That's the future of the program. I mean, obviously the seat, they're not going to make the playoffs or anything like that. I mean, but they're still. What's crazy about it, I was talking to my dad about it. He's like, for all the talk around Florida, you know, about Billy Napier and how long is it going to be before he gets fired and all that kind of stuff. They're one game behind Alabama. They're 4-3. Alabama's 5-2. They're both if they're both 2-2 in the SEC. One guy was about to get run out on the rails a few weeks ago. The other guy replaced the GOAT, just got hired. They're
Yeah,
tied in
Hugh
the
Freeze is
SEC.
taking over what everybody expected Florida to be. Auburn is.
So I mean, you can't make this up, man. I mean, you can't make that up. I mean, who would have thought if somebody think about this though? If somebody would have told you at the beginning of the season, we would be sitting here after week 8, October 21st, and somebody told you Alabama and Florida would be tied in the SEC, you would have. There's no way anybody would have thought that.
No, because I wouldn't have thought Bama had 2 losses right now.
Yeah, I mean, you I guess you would have thought, man, Florida, I guess really underachieved, but
Yeah,
it's really been, I guess it's a little bit of both. Florida or really overachieved, but it's really been. I feel like Florida's overachieved from what people thought, and Alabama's underachieved, so they kind of
yeah.
met in the middle a little bit. But just kind of a wild stat, like the narrative around Florida and Billy Napier and stuff, and then you look up at the standings here, not too long before Halloween, and you're like, dang, they're tied with Alabama in the SEC at two
Yeah.
and two right now. Think about, yeah, and who would have thought too? Vandy's ahead of Alabama. They're 2-1 in the SEC. Like that's just wild, man. You can never make this stuff up. But um, anyway, that's just a crazy thought. But yeah, like what I saw from Florida though. Obviously, they're about to get to their really tough part of their schedule. So um, but they're full blown, youth movement. Elijah Badger was huge in this game. Had some really long receptions and gave that offense a spark. But yeah, like what I've seen from them, it's definitely been a better product, I think, and better results for the most part than what people thought.
Absolutely. And then, yeah, you just touched on Vandy. They had to have a little Diego Pavia magic in the fourth quarter to come back and win, but they took care of business and beat Ball State 24-14. Coming into week 9, really the biggest games to me. I mean, Missouri, Alabama, I feel like it's going to be a really good game. I feel like both those teams are not playing their best ball right now and going to try and get right against each other. And who would have ever thought that Texas and Vanderbilt would shape out to be one of the drawing games of this Saturday of week 9? Vanderbilt, like you said, just got one loss to Missouri in the SEC, 2-1 in the SEC. Texas now 2-1 in the SEC as well, 6-1 overall. I like Texas in this game. I don't think Vanderbilt keeps their winning streak to 4 games. I don't think they shock the world again. But this definitely shapes out to be a much, much tougher game. I do like Vanderbilt in the points, though, I will say. I think that they're going to do a lot of what they did against Alabama in the control the clock game. Now, if Texas doesn't turn the ball over, they can negate that. But I feel like Vanderbilt is going to try to hold on to the football as long as possible, lean on their run game, lean on Diego Pavia running the ball. So I like Texas to cut, or excuse me, Vanderbilt to cover the 18 and a half. I think Texas probably wins by 2 possessions, but I think Vanderbilt covers the 18 and a half just because I think they're going to try and control the clock and just have time possession and dominate that. With that being said, I don't think that that allows them to get down by 19 or more. So I like Vanderbilt to cover that spread. And then really the biggest game this week to me is LSU and Texas A&M.
Yeah,
Used to be a
100%.
rivalry game. Used to be playing on a rivalry weekend before the SEC expanded again. So, this is a good one. The fan, there's no love lost between these fans, that's for sure. One of the greatest SEC games of all time happened in 2018. It was like a 74-72 win and like 6 overtimes or something like that happened between these two teams. So this is always a very entertaining game.
Yeah, 100%. It's gonna be a great matchup. I agree with you on Vandy. I think like you said, gonna be gonna try to control the clock like they did. Keep it third manageable, be able to move the chains on third downs, and yeah, who'd have thought a ranked on ranked matchup here in Nashville between Vandy and Texas. Um, as far as LSU A&M, I'm totally torn on this game, and I really LSU impressed me a lot Saturday night. What they were able to do with Arkansas, I uh, I think I'm leaning LSU in this game. To be honest with you, from Alabama fan perspective too, I'm wanting them to win because I want them to be as highly ranked as possible when Alabama comes in there. Because I mean, that's obviously Alabama. That's a game you're going to have to have. I want that win to be as good as absolutely possible.
Right.
So I'm really hoping LSU wins this game. I think I'm gonna roll LSU. I mean, I'm a little skeptical. I guess that being in College Station a night game, the way A&M's played lately, has been impressive. I think the big key matchup in this game, though, A&M's defensive line's been super disruptive all season, going up against an elite LSU offensive line that's kind of found their groove both in the run game and with Garrett Nussmeier throwing the ball around the yard. So I feel like right now LSU's a little more of a complete team. What I've seen here the end of the Ole Miss game and then what they did against Arkansas. Um, I think I trust Garrett Nussmeier a little bit more in this game, and LSU's defense, the way they've been playing, that gives me some confidence for them to be able to go on the road and get a tight road win. I'm gonna take LSU in a really close game in College Station.
Okay, I respect it. I'm going to stay away from the line or from the spread, and I'm going to go with the over. Total set at 53 and a half. I think we're going to see some fireworks in this game. I like the over in that game. Auburn, Kentucky, at Kentucky night game. I will be in attendance. Kentucky's a 2.5 point favorite. I don't like that line either. I'm going to stay away from the spread in this game. I like the under in this game, 42 and a half. Auburn has shown that it is going to consistently struggle to put the ball in the end zone offensively. Kentucky has shown that it is going to struggle to put the ball in the end zone offensively. So I think this is going to be a defensive matchup. The best defense is going to win this game, I truly feel. So I like the under 42 and a half in this game. Over 53 and a half in the Texas and Vanderbilt game. Over 53 and a half in the LSU Texas A&M game. And then that's really all I'm going to be playing this week. The rest of the games, I'm not really too confident on any of them, but I like the over in the Vandy, Texas game, LSU A&M game, and Auburn, Kentucky game. I like the under.
Well, I I hate to do it because I'll be honest. I picked Auburn a lot this year. Said they was going to start out 5-0. That didn't happen. Said they win last week. Didn't happen. Felt good. They've been in position, man. They've been in position. Again, here I am. I think they should win this game. I really do. I think they should win this game. I think they're better than Kentucky right now. They got to close it out in the fourth quarter,
Can they
obviously.
get out of their own way?
can they get out of their own way? I don't know. I feel like Auburn should win this game. Am I off base on that? I feel like they should,
I feel
but I'm
like
not
Auburn should win
confident
this
in
game
saying
too. I'm the same way. I feel like Auburn should win this game, but from what I've seen, all the tape I've seen so far, all the examples that I've been given so far, I can only say that Auburn is going to piss it away. They're not going to win this game. They're going to find a way to lose it because that's what Auburn's great at doing. And Hugh Freeze said that in his press conference today. He was like, I feel like we're playing a little bit instead of playing to win, we're playing to not lose. And he said, and that comes back on us. He said, I think we're coaching that way too. He said, I feel like we've been coaching a little bit that way. So if they can change that, I feel like there's a chance. But the feel definitely as a fan, clearly as a player, and clearly as the coaching staff. I mean, the damn head man feels it. If you're coaching to not lose and it feels like you're playing to not lose, you're going to lose a lot more than you're going to win. So if they can go in with the attitude to go kick ass instead of going to not lose, I like our chances. But it hasn't been shown yet, and everything that Hugh Freeze has said he's going to fix, like calling less RPOs or giving Jarquez the ball more, hasn't been done. He's not done what he said he's going to do. Yeah, he gave it to him 19 times instead of 15 times. Well, give him the ball 25 times. So we'll see. But I think you're right. It feels like, yes, Auburn is the better team and Auburn should win this game. But I have absolutely zero confidence in them right now. It's hard to. I don't know how anybody could. I
yeah.
wouldn't touch Auburn with a 10-foot pole with money right now.
Yeah, no, I mean that's how I feel like Auburn should win this game, honestly. But I will not bet 1 cent of my American currency on this game. That's for sure. Because I don't
I
have
will on the under. I
confidence in
will on
it.
the under just because I have no faith in either offense.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just asking me what's my feel of the game, my gut feel, that was my first instinct. I'm like, I feel Auburn should win. I feel. I know they haven't played well at the end of games, but I feel like overall they're playing a little bit better. Like I said, I don't trust Auburn's offense, but I dang sure don't trust Kentucky's either, the
Yeah.
way they've been playing. So yeah, not touching that game should be interesting. Give me your thoughts though on this Alabama Missouri game. Kind of what you feel from both teams after Auburn just having played Missouri, kind of, and what you've seen from Alabama. What were your thoughts on this game?
If Alabama leans on the run game, they're going to be fine. I mean, they were strong up front and they stopped the run at times, but Alabama's offensive line is much, much better than Auburn's offensive line, and Auburn was able to get a push at times. Um, y'all got a lot more weapons than Auburn does offensively across the board. Um, I think Alabama's going to win this game. I think Alabama's going to cover. To be honest with you, I'm not going to bet on it, but just because they've been a little wishy-washy. But I think they're going to cover, man. Missouri should a team that is 6-1 is not playing that bad of a ball game against a team that's 2-5. That's Auburn. They just looked extremely, extremely bad against a 2-5 team. Yes, they are 6-1, but I don't think they are as good as a 6-1 football team. If that may, I mean, I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. It does to
Yeah,
me in my head, but
yeah, no, I get
I
it.
don't think that they are a good 6-1 football team. I think Bama is a much better 5-2 football team than this Missouri team. Um, I I don't think Texas A&M is just head and shoulders that much better than Alabama offensively. I really don't. I think that they're good offensively, but I don't think that they're just light years better than Alabama, and they dominated Missouri. I think Alabama's going to do a lot of the same. I really do.
I definitely hope you're right. I feel that way too. Like I feel like Alabama should win and cover in this game. I really believe they will if they come out offensively and play like they're capable. Like you said, being able to lean on the run game, get it going north and south a little bit more. Um, Defensively, I feel like they're going to do a good job against Missouri. I think they can limit. I mean, obviously Luther Burden's a heck of a player, but I just don't.
Auburn limited him really well. If you can limit Luther Burden, you can stop their offense. You can stifle their offense anyway.
Yeah, and the way Brady Cook has played, even just overall this season, I feel like Alabama should win this game fairly comfortably if the offense shows up. I mean, if the offense dinks around like they have the last 2 weeks, then it'll be within that number. But I just feel like if Alabama can just play offensively like they have before the last 2 weeks. I think defensively, I just don't see Missouri scoring like 30 plus or anything like that. Like I think they're going to hold Missouri down pretty well. I feel like the defense the last 2 weeks has played pretty solid for the most part. Except a few little stretches, but um, yeah, I mean, really and honestly, I think Alabama should win and cover. Um, I, I don't feel confident in betting the line just because the way the offense is played, but yeah, that would be my feeling on the game as well. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Um, been exciting, season so far. Been exciting last couple weeks especially. Felt like the SEC race is still as wide open of about as wide open as you could get. Feel like there's 4 teams at the top there. Um, A&M, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee starting to get a little more clarity. But man, there's so many marquee matchups left to play. Still in this season. Um, just be sure to keep it locked in uh, to us here. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate that on Twitter at Saturdays_SEC. And I hope you guys have a great weekend and enjoy it. And we'll catch y'all back next week.
Thank you guys.